How are we feeling now?
Nervous.
Why?
Because it's happening, it's a thing. But I have my mantras on me, and I have this one, which sort of became my mantra after my father passed away. He passed away from COVID, so breathing's a really big thing. And then I have this one, which is how my father ended every email to me. I was actually digging through old emails last night, so I have a little piece of him with me. So we're ready. When I decided that I wanted to do the marathon earlier this year, I had time goals in mind. I had a lot in mind, and then 2020 happened, and I knew it. I mean, even in March, I knew they were going to cancel the marathon. When they had the announcement that there would be a virtual one, it was probably the day after I found out that my father was sick. And I wasn't linking the two in any way, shape, or form. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. This was something that I was supposed to do this year. If anything's going to happen this year, that's going to happen. When my brother called me and he said it doesn't look good, like, you know, it looks pretty serious. Even then, my father, oh my gosh, he had survived really bad accidents that nobody was supposed to walk away from, like car accidents. And he did. But I never went to the place that he wasn't going to beat it. And then he didn't. He had gone to the hospital, to the emergency room, but the hospital system was so overtaxed that they sent him home. In that week and a half, he just got much, much worse. So by the time we got him to the hospital, it just got worse. I ran through all of that. I mean, not even thinking, oh, hey, you signed up for this virtual race. That was the last thing on my mind. But there were just times when I felt like I was going to crawl out of my skin. And I'm like, you know what? I need to move. I need to do something. And yeah, some of those runs were maybe a mile down the road, and then I would just lose it. And the funny thing about being a runner of any size, I think that people kind of fill in the gaps. We're in the middle of a pandemic, but I like to classify myself as a larger girl. If I'm running down the street crying, immediately what people think is happening is that I'm just crying through a really tough run. So I have people honking for me, being like, you can do it. Oh, you're doing great. Keep going. It gets easier if you try. But I remember going on this one run, and it was supposed to be like a 30-minute run because I had to go to work. I'm like, get back, log into Zoom, do whatever. 8 miles passed. I was just thinking of all of these things like, oh, he's going to beat this, right? He's not going to beat this. What's going to happen if he doesn't beat this? I was home for about an hour and my brother called and he said, the nurse has asked us to prepare what we want to say if we want to say goodbye. My brother and I said our goodbyes via text message, but mine was just, you know, words of love and words of gratitude. It was shortly after that Trump tested positive. I wasn't expecting that positive diagnosis to trigger me the way that it did. I'm not lying whenever I tell you that I shut down. It was because I knew that, of course, this person would have the very best treatment and not be turned away. My father was an immigrant, and he had just the strongest work ethic and the strongest drive. And thinking of some of the things he told me, the relevance and the importance of doing hard things and how it makes you a better person. And I got one of the random New York Roadrunner emails about like, are you ready for race day? And I'm like, oh shit, there's still that. And somewhere along the way, it kind of married the two together. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. I mean, 2020 for so many people took so much. Is finishing this marathon going to like give anything back? I mean, no, it really won't. It's not going to replace something that was lost necessarily, but it's still kind of an acknowledgement of moving forward. And like I said, I'm all about that middle finger to 2020 winning.
Ready?
Yeah!
Woo! Cannon!
New York, New York.
Morning!
I'm so excited to do as much of the course as possible because as I have recently been thinking, like a lot of my last couple of conversations, especially during quarantine, during the pandemic with my father, was that he had this road trip that he kept putting off, but he'd never been in New York.
First marathon! Woo! Mile 9!
He wanted to see the seasons. He wanted to see, and my father hates crowds. He hated crowds, but he wanted to see Central Park. He wanted to see certain things. And I know that that's what I'll be thinking about a lot as I run, because one of the things I'm the most excited about is running through all of these boroughs And I know there's going to come a part where it's probably going to be way too hard. But I also know that it's going to be a part where I'm going to dig it out and pull it out, because that's what he would have done. And he always told me that, you know, he had such a strong work ethic. So he always told me, if you put it in, if you put the work in and you put the heart in, you're going to get what you want. That's just going to happen. I recently told somebody, I was like, it's going to be bittersweet whenever I finish, because I think in some ways it's like my final goodbye, because the day of the funeral was such a flash. I remember it, but I don't remember it. I told my brother in the car ride home, I don't think that the funeral was really the time to say goodbye, at least not for me. I mean, sure, we both spoke and invited people to speak and share memories, and that in itself was wonderful, because I heard stories about my father that I had never heard, and on its own level, that was really, really wonderful. But as a way to say goodbye, not so much. And I think I've been kind of shelving that. So I think that the marathon, in a lot of ways, will be that kind of final goodbye.
All right, 400 meters to go. There it is. It's up ahead. You're almost there. Yep, and you can hear everybody screaming, pulling you in. I'm taking this. You did it!